What is up, Corporate Misfits? Welcome to episode 52 of the Corporate Misfit podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Darrington, founder of the Corporate Misfit Club and business strategist for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start, launch, and grow their business. I am so excited for today's Friday feature because we are chatting with Lauren Armstrong in a two-part interview about how she left her 9-to-5 to start her own implementation business. She helps overwhelmed entrepreneurs, and I know that the implementation strategies that she's going to give to you today are powerful. Lauren Armstrong is an implementation strategist and works with service-based business owners who feel overwhelmed by all the things that they need to do in their business, or they have shiny object syndrome. She helps them identify and execute the most important task in their business so that they can have the freedom that they wanted when they first started their business. She also helps them use her created future framework to help them establish a vision, create a strategic plan, and get through all the moving parts of owning your own business. Also, stay tuned because I'm going to be sharing with you a special opportunity on how you can come and learn from Lauren Armstrong and learn more about her created future framework. All right, let's go ahead and dive into part 1 with Lauren Armstrong.
You're listening to the Corporate Misfit podcast with Brittany Darrington, where female entrepreneurs can get powerful tips and advice on how to start, launch, and grow their business.
Lauren, I am so excited to have you on the Corporate Misfit podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story about how you left your 9-to-5.
Thanks for having me, Brittany. I'm happy to share.
You actually help people to grow and implement and really start a business and skip the whole overwhelm side of things. So can you tell me, how did you get into what it is you do today?
Absolutely. So my business is called the Created Future Academy. And so I'm just like an implementation strategist. So what that means is that I work with service-based business owners who are feeling super overwhelmed, like you just said, like feeling like they have to do all of the things or have shiny object syndrome in their business, which unfortunately for us entrepreneurs tends to be almost all of us, because they feel like so excited about different things. We have lots of ideas. We tend to go down different paths, right? So I help them identify and execute the most important tasks in their business. So really honing in all of that creative visionary power into the things that make the most sense for their business and to build that business for them. So the reason I do this is because, like I said, I'm a visionary as well. And I know most entrepreneurs have this whole tendency to go in a whole bunch of different directions. But there's so much power in harnessing that energy to build that business that you actually want to create versus all of the different things that you come up with during, the course of a week or a month or a year. So
I love that. That's something that so many new entrepreneurs really struggle with. And even established entrepreneurs, like we want to implement anything and everything that we think about or whatever. And we try to implement it all at once into our business. And then we freak out because we're like, why is it not working? Why aren't things working? Why aren't we generating sales? Why aren't we getting the client? And sometimes when we don't fully think about it and think about the whole implementation and seeing if it's even right for our business, that's where that resistance and that overwhelm comes in. We're like, is this even right for what we're doing?
Exactly. And it's so easy to be kind of caught up into the whole, like what's new or what's fancy or like what your friend is doing or what somebody really successful in the industry is doing. And what I find is like, you're not building their business, you're building your business. So like, you don't know what that successful entrepreneur that you're following is actually going towards. Like maybe they want to have a business where they go into the office every day and they have a team of 60 people. And that's the reason they're choosing to do this new thing. But if you do that, but your end goal is to really like work from anywhere, like, do you see what I mean? Like, that's just not really aligned with what you're trying to build. So, I used to be one of these people that had just like a constant stream of ideas for businesses, like in my dorm room, like, next to my wall, whatever. And like, I never actually did anything with them, which unfortunately I feel like it's a curse for a lot of people, like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, but not actually implementing. And so in my corporate job, just kind of to give a little bit of a background, like we went through a phase of continuous improvement in my corporate job. And I found that like by gaining that implementation tool, right? Like by figuring out, okay, you go through this process, then you actually like have an idea and here's what the outcome is for that. I got to implement one of my ideas. And that's when I really like got the bug of being like, wait, I could do this for more than just my corporate ideas, right? Like I could do this for my business ideas and actually make them profitable, because that was the end result of this continuous improvement project. It was like, okay, take something from nothing, simplify a process, and actually become profitable. And I was like, wait, everybody like needs to know about this, right? So
Lauren, was that a new startup company? Was that kind of a new or?
No. So actually I worked in the oil industry of all places.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know you live in Texas, Brittany. I live in Texas.
It's oil and gas central.
Oil and
oh
gas.
my gosh, that's all.
Yeah.
If you're working, the first thing people ask is like, what oil and gas company are you working for?
Exactly.
That's Texas.
That was me. So I worked in the oil and gas industry. And so we kind of went through this phase of continuous improvement. So I don't know if anybody is listening or if you've ever worked in an oil and gas company, but like, you know, we go through kind of phases of like business improvement projects and things that our stakeholders wanted us to do. So we did continuous improvement for a while there. And that was when I really got the bug and got certified and figured out, okay, if I can do this here, how could I use the same skill set that I'm learning in my corporate job and actually apply it to my entrepreneurial passion? So that's kind of where this all came from.
I love that. And how did you, okay, so oil and gas, and for anyone who's not in the Texas or in a place where oil and gas is really huge, oil and gas is like one of those things where it's like the mega of careers in certain places. And so how did you decide to leave? Okay, I'm doing implementation in an oil and gas company. I'm sure it was a huge company. And I'm leaving and now I'm going to start my own business. So what was that transition like? What was kind of that moment where you were like, okay, I'm going to pivot and go in a completely different direction to go work for myself?
Right. And this is such a good question. And there's so many different answers. I feel like so many things aligned to make that transition, right? It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, nope, not doing this anymore. Like if that were the case, oh my gosh, that would be lovely. But like, that was not what happened. So both of my parents were entrepreneurs growing up. So I kind of grew up with the mindset of this is possible. And I think that that's really huge for a lot of people who are in corporate jobs, is like, they don't even see that as like a realm of something that they can do, like the average person can accomplish. Right. So I think that that was huge. And I'm like so grateful that I saw that growing up as a possibility.
Yeah.
So I kind of went to college knowing like someday I want to start my own business, but I had all of these beliefs that like I was too young, I didn't know enough, no one's going to want to pay me. I just recently like graduated from college. What can I teach them? Like, so I needed to get this experience, quote unquote. And like, I was going to be the best employee ever at this crazy job where it was like, you know, 6 figures and like amazing benefits. Like I had a pension like as of 3 years ago, you know what I mean? Like pensions don't exist anymore. So you're 100% right. Like it was a huge decision to leave on my own. So I think that there's this Anais Nin quote, and I'm totally going to butcher it. But it says like, and then the time came where the risk to remain tight in a bud was greater than the risk it took to blossom. And that's just like, it sums up so beautifully, like how I felt. Like I was working at this job. I had been there for 5 years. Like I was climbing the corporate ladder, but it wasn't even what I wanted anymore. It was like, okay, in 20 years, this is my option. Like this is my default future, right? Like I could be working on becoming the CEO of this company. Yeah. Is that what I want? Like, no, it's not what I want. So I think that the biggest thing for me was really the mindset shift, because all the logistics to create your own business and to leave and to make money on your own, they're all figure outable, right? Like not even a word, but
Marie
Google.
Forleo.
Yeah, exactly. Is that Marie Forleo? I was wondering who that actually came from, because I know I did not make that up. I love it so much, right? So it's all figure outable, like it's all Googleable, like you can do it, like it's possible, right? So one of my major challenges was really deciding to go for it, because I think that once you make that decision, everything else kind of falls into place to take that action to get there. So I kept imagining what my life would look like down these 2 paths, like one where I stayed in my corporate career and the other where I went out on my own. And we all have the ability to kind of create whatever future we desire, right? Like the future isn't real. It all not to get too woo on you, but like it only exists in our minds. Like it's not here yet. So
I totally believe that. I believe that 100%. I am the woo woo queen. Okay.
Okay. I love it. Okay, good. Sometimes I'm like, oh, do I go there? Do I go there? So,
yeah. I freak everyone out. I'm like, your mind will challenge you. And you're like,
yes,
what
exactly. It's not real. So it hasn't happened yet. It isn't real. Just like our interpretation of our past experiences. Like if you're woo, you totally get that as well. Like our past isn't real. It's an interpretation of what happened to us. It's all in our minds. Like, so there's a quote that Dan Sullivan says, and it's, the future is your property, which I just love that. Like you can do anything you want with it. And I love thinking about life this way. It's like, okay, so there's these two paths and I can keep doing what I'm doing and I could do this 9-to-5 thing, which I'm not necessarily in love with, or I have been given the choice to create whatever future I want. Like no one is holding a gun to my head. Like this is all about the choices that we're making in our lives. And so many people decide to dread the future, but they're coming up with it in their own heads, right? Like you're dreading a future that isn't even true. You're dreading a future that's in your imagination. And because it doesn't have to be determined by your past experiences, you can make alternative decisions. So not to get like too woo there, but like that's kind of where the whole concept and idea for the Created Future Academy comes from. And created future being that I'm not being on my default path and creating this life for myself. I want to help other people do the same things. I want to help people create the life that they want to live. And so there's a way to do that. And you can implement on your ideas and create that future for yourself, just to kind of like bring it all back. So
I love that because it is really true. If you take that time to identify what you want and think about how can you create that, then you're able to put yourself in the right mindset to get to where you want to go. What usually happens as an employee, sometimes we're used to being told what to do. We're used to receiving we have to get permission from our boss or our manager, our director, whatever it may be.
Totally.
And what usually happens is then when it's time for us to consider going out into working for ourselves and starting our own business, we don't give ourselves that permission to really create the life that we want. And so sometimes we bring, I like to call it corporate prison. We bring corporate prison into our business and we implement the things that we really did not enjoy about the corporate world into our business because that's all we know. And we think that that's the way to do it because that's what we always had to ask for permission for. Or that's what we implemented day in and day out. And so now we do that in our business. Did you have to kind of go through a detox? And again, for anyone who's listening, there's nothing wrong with the corporate world, but going from employee to entrepreneur, it's completely different mindsets and different things you have to do in order for you to become successful in what it is you're looking to do. So did you have any detox moments or things 100%. That you implemented once you decided to leave your 9-to-5 and go into working for yourself?
Yeah, 1000%. So, this is like the employee mindset versus the entrepreneur mindset. And it is totally a thing. And it's so funny. Like, yeah, the permission thing is huge. And also just kind of like having marching orders. Like you don't have anyone telling you what to do, right? Like you can wake up and decide between, A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z, like what you're going to do that day. And one of those things could be taking a nap and not getting anything done. Right. So like there is kind of like a transition period of like, I have all of this freedom now. What do I actually do with it?
Yeah.
And so I created a framework that I follow, and I've got to be honest with you, like a couple months into it took me a couple months to actually get this kind of framework nailed down and figured out. And okay, what am I going to do every day? Because I was spending so much energy and time thinking about, okay, what do I work on? Because I literally could work on anything I wanted, right? I don't have a boss. It's me. Like, what am I trying to create? What are those, 5% of activities that are going to make me money versus the 95% of activities that might just be like learning something new or like attending my 85th masterclass or, like whatever that looks like. So my framework kind of looks like this, and I'll just share it. It's 3 steps and it's super simple. And if you're currently in your 9-to-5 and you're looking to leave, this is kind of a good exercise for you to do. It doesn't cost you any money. It's just like a thinking exercise, right? So number 1, your vision and alignment. So like when you're thinking about your done business, so everyone always says, I'm building a business. Okay, great. But what are you trying to build? When it's done, what does that look like? Are you lounging on a beach, checking email for 2 hours a day? Are you going into a almost like a corporate environment that's your own environment, right? Like where you're the CEO and you've got hundreds of employees. Like, what does your done business look like? How long are you working? Who are you employing? Who are you serving? Like, what does that ideal life look like for you? What does that created future look like for you? So that's step number one. And it's really getting the vision clear and being in alignment of what you want, because it's going to flow so much easier if you're actually building what you want versus what you think you should because you learned it at your corporate job, right?
Yeah. Or you see another entrepreneur doing it and you think
yes.
that you need to be implementing it too.
100% yes. I've said 100% like 8 times in this interview. So
I use it all the time.
I'm a really big fan. It's like my number one used emoji, like the 100%.
Yeah, we just need 100% in our marketing materials when we make this. I love that.
I love it. Okay, so number 2. So that's first step, right? Vision and alignment. Number 2 is strategy and planning. So once you have that idea of what that done business looks like, you can then create a strategy or a plan to get to that done business. And it becomes so much more clear when you know what you're building. I mean, think about building a house, for example. Like, you aren't going to just go to an empty lot and pour some concrete or like lay down some 2x4s and be like, I hope this looks like a house when I'm done. No, like, you have a plan to build that beautiful dream home, like, or even if it's a shack, like whatever it looks like, you have a plan to build it, right? So that's the next step. So you can kind of work backwards or begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, right? Like, you start with the end and you can work backwards and say, okay, where do I start? What's the first right step? And you don't need to know all of the answers right now. And you don't need to leave in order to do the first right step, but to really understand where are you going and what is it going to take to get there, so you have a realistic expectation of the actions that it's going to take you to get there. And so that brings us to the third piece, which is execution and implementation, because you can dream about it all you want, you complain about it all you want, but if you don't take those actions and do those steps, and action totally breeds clarity. I don't know where that quote comes from, but I agree with it 1,000,000%. I think 1,000,000%, not 100%. Anyway, like, you know, once you start doing those actions, once you start implementing, once you start executing, it becomes more and more clear about what you need to do next in order to build that done business. And I don't know, it just, I'm so passionate about this. So anyways,
Lauren, I love that, because what usually happens for new entrepreneurs and people who are looking to eventually, hopefully leave their 9-to-5 and start their own business, it's the implementation part that most people get kind of stuck and stagnant in. So what usually happens is we have the idea, it sounds amazing, it sounds great, I'm going to start this business, I'm going to start doing coaching, or I'm going to start this clothing line, or I'm going to start doing this specific thing. But then when it comes time to actually put the work in to implement it and do that and create the strategies and the process around it, that's where a lot of people fall short. And for me, I have just in my years and years of entrepreneurship, I have seen entrepreneurship be praised as this like sexy thing where everyone needs to be sitting on the beach, drinking a margarita and, you know, working 1 hour a week. And so it's funny because what happens, and as much as that can be true, if that's the life you want to create, what usually happens though, is that some of the entrepreneurs that are aspiring entrepreneurs going into entrepreneurship, they think that that's it. So then when they hit some bumps in the roads, when they're on the implementation side of things, they start to freak out because they're like, wait, why is it not easy? Why is this not coming? Sometimes, why is it not coming naturally? Or how do I actually get to where I want to go? Because I see this huge mountain keeping me from there. So how do you go about implementation in your business? What are some mindset things that you do to help you actually implement and get to that end result of where you're looking to go?
Yep. I love that question. And I think that it's so true about getting stuck kind of in this implementation piece. And unfortunately, sometimes we find like, okay, this isn't easy. So then we say, well, what if that were easy? And we switch gears and we go down a different path. And that's like, don't do that. Just, you know, stick with the thing you're doing. So to answer the question, to go off of that, how do I implement? It's like, it's so true. Okay. So what's some of the things that I do in my business in order to implement, and I love sharing these, and it's going to be hard sometimes. Like yes, entrepreneurship is kind of touted as this like, sexy thing, but you still have to work at it. And work doesn't necessarily need to be hard, but it does take action, right? It takes work. So some of the things that I love to use is one, the 90-day planning method. So cycling out 90 days, 90-day chunks, 3 major actions that I need to get completed within those 90 days. And I like to set binary actions towards those goals. So what does that mean? That means that, did I do it? Yes or no is the answer. Not I intended to do it, not these big lofty, like foo-foo, like make an impact. Like that's great. You can make an impact, but like specifically, what are you going to do? Right. Yeah. So for example, if your goal is within the next 3 months, so 90 days, to get 20 new clients, by knowing the numbers in your business, and this is what I do in my business, so I'm just kind of sharing a generic example. So
I'm with you. I do 90-day goals too. We do annually, and then we break it all down to 90, and we only focus on the 90.
Yes, only focus on 90. It's so easy to get distracted by those big lofty goals that feel so heavy and big, and like, how am I ever going to get there? But if you're just looking right in front of you, so much easier, right? So, okay. And then even further, how do you break those down into binary actions? So you did it or you didn't. So if I need to get 20 clients in the next 3 months, right? And I know that I have, a hit rate of, let's say 10%. So for every 200 calls I make, I'm going to get those 20 clients. So I know within the next 3 months, I need to make 200 phone calls. So for this week, how many calls do I need to make? Like, right. So you break it down by saying week by week, how many people do I actually, and this goes for Facebook ads, this goes for hosting challenges, this goes for webinars, whatever your sales mechanism is. So I'm just using calls because it's an easy example, right? For X%. So if you make like 20 calls this week, did you do that? Yeah. Yes. When did you do that? So is that in your calendar? Yes or no? Because if it's not in your calendar, it's like a wish. It's not going to get done, right? So that's what I do. I do 90-day goals. I do year goals, just like you, Brittany. Then I break it down by 90-day increments. And then further than that, I break it down by week. So I do what's called the perfect week. I don't know if you've ever heard of Craig Valentine. He does the perfect day formula.
Yeah, I love him. I love him. I love his 5 pillars of success too. Oh, I love him.
Yes. So he's actually coming out with a book later I don't know if it's this year or early next year, that's talking about the perfect week formula. So he did the perfect day formula, and now he's coming up with the perfect week formula. So I've kind of already started incorporating that whole thing into my weekly planning, because that breaks down my 90-day goals even further. And I absolutely love it. I have a time where I'm going to do that sales mechanism every single week to know that gets done. So I feel like I'm going off on a way tangent here, but I plan my week, I do 90-day goals. I love batching. You're obviously a big fan of batching as well.
For people who have no idea what she's talking about, I have been interviewing for the podcast, been interviewing 52 women back to back in like 3 weeks.
It's a perfect example of batching. Like, why would you spread this out throughout a whole year and then worry about it when the week comes and you haven't done the interview yet, and then you're kind of scrambling and the quality isn't what you want it to be? Or you could do it in advance. You could spend your time doing it well, have it be completely done, and set it out for the rest of the year. Like, doesn't that feel so much lighter? Like,
it does. Not during, sometimes you're like, what am I doing and why? But after.
Afterwards, it's really beneficial. Yeah, like for those of you out there that have blogs, for example, like I know a lot of people start with blogging and then they decide like, okay, we're going to go into full-time being an entrepreneur. So for your blogs, like if you're struggling to come up with weekly content for your blog, can you sit down over a weekend and write 7 blogs? It's going to do over the next 7 weeks. Like, how can you incorporate utilizing your time in small chunks, getting loads done? So I actually host through my business an implementation sprint. And what that is every Wednesday, I have a 3-hour implementation call. And so it's completely free. You jump on, it's a Zoom call, and we introduce ourselves on the call, like in a circle, but there's no circle because it's Zoom. And we just say like, what's your name? What's your business? What are you going to get done during this 3-hour period of time? Some people write blog posts. Some people like do their sales calls. Some people like map out their infusion staff program. Like whatever it might be, you have 3 focused hours where you can batch whatever content, whatever like thing you need to do in your business to get stuff done. Because I'm not there to teach you a 3-hour masterclass. Like I'm there to help you do the things that matter. And if you say something on the call like, oh, I'm going to like update my Instagram posts, I'll probably challenge you and say, is that the best use of your time? Like, is that going to make you money? Is that going to move your business forward? I mean, I love Instagram, but the answer is probably no.
Yeah. And I love that you're saying this because too, what usually happens is, first of all, a lot of people don't hit their goals. And it's one of those things where so many of us set goals and so many of us really hit our goals and actually accomplish what it is that we set forth to do. And so taking that time to really identify and gain that clarity and then creating a system around that, whether that be your annual, your 90, and then breaking it down to where it's weekly and digestible so that you know how you're going to get there. Because I believe that setting goals, just my thoughts and opinions on this, but I believe that your goals, you're kind of like that GPS system for where you want to go. And so if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, this is where I want to go, this is what I ultimately want. Now it's time to create the route and the route to get you to where you want to go so that you can get to your destination. Yes, you might hit detours. Yes, you might have traffic along the way. But if you really figure out where you want to go, then you can put an address in and then you can start to find your way to where you want to go.
You can get in the damn car.
Yeah,
exactly.
Get in the car and you can know where you're going, because I feel like if you have no sense of direction of where you want to go, then it's like getting on the highway. And if anyone is familiar with Houston, Texas, it's like getting on 610 and driving in a circle over and over and over and over and never knowing what exit you're taking. So
100,
faster. You're wasting gas, you're wasting time, and you're wasting your energy. And all you're doing is going in circles and never really getting to an actual destination. And so I love what you're saying because it's so true. And I think especially in the very beginning stages, when we go into entrepreneurship, sometimes we have these massive goals for ourselves. We want to be a $100 million company, or we want to be able to help 500,000 people, or whatever that is for us. But sometimes we forget to break our goals down to just digestible sizes so that we can actually implement and actually achieve where we want to go. And so I love that you're saying this because it's so true.
I mean, you have a daily amount of energy, right? And it's finite. And I joke about this with my boyfriend, like, you know, when you have your cell phone and it has a battery life, right? And so like you can either use that cell phone battery like wisely and you make phone calls, check email, or you can scroll mindlessly on Facebook. And no matter what, at the end of a certain amount of time, that battery is going to be dead. And so it's just kind of like your brain power during a day. You can get in front of your computer in the morning and not know what you're going to work on and spend all that energy or that cell phone battery like looking and being like, okay, I could work on this, I could work on that. But if you've got a plan, a set destination like that GPS, I absolutely love that analogy. Like I know where I'm going and I know that today I need to drive this leg. And that's totally digestible, right? And not only that, but I think as entrepreneurs, especially in the early days when we're looking at those big hills that we're trying to climb, it's so easy to look at the gap and get overwhelmed and be like, what did I get myself into?
I know.
What did I get myself into? But when you're using a system that kind of looks at daily goals and you can check off all of those things and you can just look backwards instead of looking forwards and saying, look what I did yesterday. Like I did all of these amazing things and I'm not where I want to go yet, but I know that 100%, there we go again, I am working towards that goal and look at all of these things that I've already accomplished. So you're like creating this momentum versus kind of swimming in the shallow end, like doing stuff every day and not really making progress towards anything, right?
All right, corporate misfits. Well, I hope you enjoyed this first part of this Friday feature with Lauren Armstrong. I'm so excited for what she has to share in part 2, which will be episode number 55 next Friday. Now, earlier I mentioned that you could work with Lauren in the Corporate Misfit Club, and I wanted to present you a very special offer. So if you are looking to get a vision for your business and create a strategic plan so that you can actually implement and get everything done, then you will definitely want to join us within the Corporate Misfit Club. And I am going to give you a very special offer. You can join us for $1 for 7 days. In our Corporate Misfit community, you will be able to gain access to Lauren's business bundle, where she shares with us in 4 videos on how you can start creating a vision, create a strategic plan, and ultimately implement in your business so that you can win and actually see results. So if you want to come check that out, all you have to do is click the link in the show notes, or you can type in to the code on the Corporate Misfit Club. You can type in code Lauren Armstrong.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Corporate Misfit Podcast, we invite you to check out the Corporate Misfit Club. The Corporate Misfit Club is the essential resource for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start or grow a business they actually love. Whether you are a seasoned entrepreneur in your startup phase or simply thinking about taking the leap into entrepreneurship, we've got your back, girl. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive members-only discount perks, and unlimited tools. We also have a supportive community of women where our members share stories, experiences, their wins, and business tips. The Corporate Misfit Club is the perfect place to be to start, launch, or grow a business. So check it out at corporatemisfitclub.com.